Chosen one, you haven't arrived here by chance. There's an invisible move from heaven that has guided your steps, and this message is confirmation that your life is under a greater calling. Today isn't just another ordinary day on the calendar. Today is the day that God extends His hand to seal a new time for you. Every word that will be released carries the weight of a divine summons. Like a prophetic seal that opens doors that were once closed and shatters chains that kept your soul captive. You need to understand, the heavens have bowed down to touch your story, and the angels are already in motion, preparing paths that your eyes can't yet see. Doors that seemed impassable are beginning to creak and open. Walls that stood before you are starting to tremble and crumble. This isn't just inspiration. It's the manifestation of a spiritual reality that is now moving in your favor. This word is a breath that can redefine the direction of your journey, so stay until the end. Because what will be revealed could be the turning point of your life. You were led here because there is something urgent to be activated in your spirit. This is not chance or coincidence. It is God Himself confirming that you are ready for a new cycle. The tears you shed, the deserts you crossed, and the silent nights when you thought you were alone, all of it prepared you for this moment. Today, heaven sets a table before you, and on that table there is food, there is a promise, there is direction. Do not ignore this call, because there is a greater purpose awaiting your response. And before we continue, if this video is being helpful to you, please subscribe, leave a like, and comment. This simple act makes it so this message can reach even more people who also need to hear the voice of God. Now take a deep breath and open your heart, because from this moment on, we will begin to walk through spiritual truths that can redefine the course of your life. You are about to understand why the trials didn't destroy you, but forged you for something much greater. You know the weight of crossing deserts. You know what it's like to walk through long nights when tears soak your pillow and no answer seems to come from heaven. There were times when you believed God's silence was abandonment, when in fact it was the Father's deepest care, molding your faith in silence. Every tear shed was not wasted. Every nightly groan was heard. The heavens never stopped recording the steps you took even when you had no strength. The Word reminds us of men and women who, just like you, went through trials that seemed unbearable. Job lost everything in a single day. Children, health, possessions, but he discovered that still his Redeemer lived. Joseph was thrown into a pit by his own brothers, sold into slavery, unjustly imprisoned, but in every painful season, God was preparing him for the palace. And you, how many times did you believe it was the end? How many times did you think, I can't take another day? And yet here you are, alive, standing, and not by chance, but because God sustained you with His faithful right hand. The trials were never meant to destroy you, but to reveal your essence. Like gold that needs fire to be purified, your life was placed in intense furnaces. The heat of the difficulties brought out who you really are. Gold is not lost in the fire, it is purified. It gains value. In the same way, you did not leave the battles the same way you entered them. Your scars are not signs of defeat, but testimonies of survival. Each mark carries the proof that you are someone who has crossed valleys and deserts, but was not overcome. And think about it. If until today you have not been destroyed, it is because there was an invisible hand holding yours. How many dangers did you not even get to see, but the Lord turned away from your life? How many times did the darkness try to suffocate your light, but failed? The tears you shed were watering seeds that are now beginning to sprout. The enemy tried to convince you that the desert was your final destination, but in reality it was just a rehearsal for the season of the promise. Reflect on this. If every battle faced made you more resilient, if every dark night brought you closer to prayer, then the trials fulfilled their role. You are not someone broken, but someone molded. Not someone forgotten, but someone polished to shine in due time. God doesn't waste pain. He transforms pain into testimony. The cross was not the end of Jesus' story, but the stage of the greatest victory. And just like him, you also have in your scars a memorial that nothing can stop God's purpose. You went through seasons where the ground seemed to disappear under your feet. Fear tried to dominate your mind, but inside you there was a flame that would not go out. This flame was the certainty that even without understanding, you still believed. This is faith, walking without a map, but trusting in the voice that says, "I am with you until the end of time." So, listen. The desert was necessary, but it is not permanent. It only prepared you to inhabit the land of the promise. If you have survived this far, it was not just to continue surviving, but to live the abundance of what God has already set aside for your future. The rehearsal is over, and now the stage is set. The time of pain was real, but the time of the promise has already begun to dawn before your eyes. The desert was just the rehearsal. The season of the promise is already beginning to emerge on the horizon. There comes a moment when the Holy Spirit whispers to the weary soul, "Now is the time." You may not feel prepared. You may look at yourself and see only limitations, insecurities, and failures. But heaven has already decreed something about your life. You are ready, not because all the circumstances have aligned, but because God has decided to release his word, and when he speaks, nothing can resist. Gideon saw himself as the least of his house, hiding, fearing his enemies, and yet God called him a mighty man of valor. Esther was just a young orphan, displaced in a foreign land, but she was raised to be queen and intercessor for an entire nation for such a time as this. You were also called in this specific time in history. You are not late and you are not early. You are exactly in sync with God's agenda. The Lord has already declared, "Behold, I am doing a new thing. Now it springs forth, do you not perceive it?" Isaiah 43:19. This means that the new thing is already in motion, even if your eyes cannot yet see it. You are not the one who determines if you are ready or not. It is the voice of God that establishes this truth. He looks at you and does not just see your failures or your past. He sees what he planted inside you. He sees the hidden potential that can only flourish now. And this is where you need to make a decision of faith. If this word has reached you, it is no accident. It is because something has already been released in the heavens on your behalf. The life that seemed to be on pause is beginning to move in a new direction. Broken relationships can be restored. Open wounds can be healed. Dormant purposes can be reactivated. Even areas like health and finances are under the gaze of the God who transforms everything. Remember Joseph. Apparently he was forgotten in prison, but in a single night he was snatched from the dungeon and placed before Pharaoh. This is the power of God, to change stories in a matter of moments. In the same way, what seemed to be stalled in your life can be accelerated by the breath of the Spirit. And perhaps you ask, "But why me, Lord?" The answer is simple. Because he saw in you what no one else perceived. While some saw only weakness, he saw purpose. While others doubted, he had already chosen you to carry the promise. When the Father declares that you are ready, there is no accusation, no contrary voice, no doubt that can silence that truth. This is the moment to align your faith with the celestial decree. Do not look at the size of the challenge. Look at the size of the God who sends you. He does not call the equipped, he equips the called. You may be trembling inside, but every step of obedience activates a wave of transformation in the spiritual world. And at this very moment, it is important that you pause and perceive what is being released in your heart. Because the voice of God not only comforts, it also sends. Today, he sends you to live the newness of life. Today, he seals a new time upon you. If this message is touching your heart, imagine starting every morning with an intimate conversation with Jesus. The Coffee with Jesus ebook was created for this. 31 days of encounters with the Word, deep prayers, faith challenges, and revelations that transform your day. It's not just a book, it's a daily invitation to sit at the table with the one who knows your heart. And you also get 2 super bonuses completely free. But beware, limited edition. The link to get yours is in the first pinned comment. Don't put it off. Jesus is already waiting for you. Now breathe and allow this truth to settle in you. God has already declared that you are ready. The spiritual world has already been moved, and the season that is opening before you cannot be closed by any human hand. What he has begun, he is faithful to complete. When God opens a season, no man can close it. This is the essence of Revelation 3:8. Behold, I have set before you an open door, which no one is able to shut. The season that the Lord inaugurates over your life is not conditioned on people's opinions, nor on the history of your failures. It is decreed by heaven and sustained by the faithfulness of God. You need to understand, there are doors that you could never open by your own strength, but the touch of God's hand throws them wide open. And when he opens, there is no wall that can resist, no chain that can remain intact. Imagine chains bursting to the ground, walls trembling and crumbling, padlocks that for years kept you limited now dissolving before the presence of the Most High. This is what happens when a new season begins. The word confirms. For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans for peace and not for evil, to give you a future and a hope. Jeremiah 29:11. This means that the season that is born is not for confusion nor for destruction, but for peace, growth, restoration, and destiny. You may have crossed seasons of pain, but what is coming now is a time when God's hand writes a new story. Joseph is living proof that a season can change in a single night. He went to sleep a prisoner and woke up a governor. What took years of tears and injustices was reversed in an instant by divine intervention. In the same way, there are things that the Lord is about to accelerate in your life. You may have waited for years. You may have been forgotten by people, but you have not been forgotten by God. And the new season is not just a sigh of relief. It is a decree of total transformation. Where there was scarcity, there will be abundance. Where there was silence, there will be song. Where there was shame, there will be honor. Because when God inaugurates a phase, he does it in such a way that everyone knows it was his hand that acted. But hold on to this. This season is not just for your personal benefit. Yes, you will be restored. Yes, you will experience provision, but it goes beyond that. God wants to use you as a channel to touch other lives. He's opening a new season in your life because through you, he will bless families, communities, generations. It is a promise that overflows. So ask yourself, are you ready to walk in a territory that is nothing like what you have lived until now? Are you willing to believe that tomorrow no longer looks like yesterday? Because this is the essence of the new season, to break with old structures and step on unprecedented ground. Doors have opened, chains have fallen, walls have crumbled. The time of surviving is over, now is the time to live. A season is being born, and you are already in it. You are not called just to enjoy personal blessings, but to become a channel of transformation. The Bible declares in Matthew 5:14, "You are the light of the world." A city on a hill cannot be hidden. This statement is a seal on your identity. You are not just someone who receives the light of Christ. You are someone called to reflect that light in a world plunged into darkness. God did not invest so much in you, did not mold you in the fire, did not purify you in tears, just so that your life would be ordinary. You are called to make an impact, not just on big stages, not just before crowds, but often in the silence of simple actions where a gesture of love, a word of faith, a prayer whispered at the right time can change destinies. Think of Mother Teresa, who without spotlights or riches became a living symbol of compassion. She represents the essence of the calling, to be a small light, but one that shines intensely. And you, where does God want you to shine? Perhaps it's inside your home, in the workplace, in the classroom, or even on social media. The light you carry does not belong to you. It is the reflection of Christ in you. And when you take your stand, that light cannot be hidden. Your faith is not just an intimate and private experience. It is also a living testimony, a lighthouse for those who still walk in shadows. It is through your life that many will see that there is hope, that there is a God who saves, that there is a way out when everything seems lost. When you rise up and take on your calling, the impact surpasses your understanding. And know this, when you position yourself correctly, God supernaturally amplifies your influence. What begins small, like a mustard seed, can grow and become a tree that gives shade and welcomes lives. Your testimony has the power to touch people you can't even imagine. But there is a secret. To be light, you must believe without hesitation. Because the world is full of voices that want to put out the flame of faith, but only those who remain firm can shine in the midst of darkness. You are called to live this firmness, to carry within you the divine spark that illuminates, inspires, and transforms. So, do not limit yourself. The calling is not just to survive, it is to leave a mark on lives. It is not just to receive, it is to overflow. It is not just to exist, it is to impact. And when you assume this place, your life becomes a lighthouse that guides others to the heart of God. But to fulfill this calling, something even deeper will be necessary. To believe without hesitation, to fully trust in the God who sends you. This is what leads us to the next point. What opens the doors of the new time is not the strength of your arms, nor the logic of your mind. What opens them is faith. The Bible declares in Hebrews 11:1, "Now faith is the assurance of things hoped for, the conviction of things not seen." This means that even before you touch the miracle, you already need to walk as one who possesses it. Faith is the bridge between the promise and reality. It's no coincidence that Jesus looked at the disciples and always repeated, "Do not be afraid, only believe." He knew that the sea opens not before anxiety, but before trust. Peter, upon seeing Jesus walking on the water, dared to ask, "Lord, if it is you, command me to come to you." And when he stepped out of the boat, he broke the limits of logic. It was faith that sustained him on the waves. In the same way, it is your faith that will make you walk on the waters of impossibilities. Faith is not a vague feeling, but a decision to trust. It doesn't matter if you feel fear. Faith does not nullify fear, but overcomes it. It doesn't matter if the circumstances say you can't. Faith looks beyond the visible and rests on the word that God has already released. Because when he speaks, reality bows. You might think, "But I don't have enough faith." Jesus answered this in Matthew 17:20, "A mustard seed is enough." Small faith, when genuine, moves mountains. The problem is not in the size of your faith, but in the direction you place it. When your trust is in the God who can do all things, even the impossible becomes natural. And here is the key. Faith does not just receive blessings, it builds legacies. Abraham believed against all hope, and his faith became an inheritance for generations. What you decide to believe today does not just impact your life, but also the lives of those who will come after you. Every act of trust in God is transformed into a seed that flourishes at the right time. I ask you, are you willing to take the step that activates the promise? Are you ready to get out of the boat even if the wind is strong? Because faith requires courage. The courage to obey when everything around you says the opposite. The courage to stand firm when nothing seems to change. The courage to declare victory even before you see the fruits. Faith is the key. It is what opens invisible doors, tears down spiritual walls, and lights up the darkness. If you believe, you will see the glory of God, and by choosing to walk by faith, you not only enter into God's new thing, you also become part of the eternal legacy He is writing. And this leads us to the next point, the calling to leave marks that will echo through the generations. You need to understand, the calling that rests on your life is not limited to you. It is greater, broader, deeper. God did not choose you just to survive the deserts or to enjoy personal blessings. He chose you to mark generations. Your life is like a seed, and every step of faith you take today generates fruits that others will reap tomorrow. Look at the example of Abraham. He was called not just to receive individual promises, but to be the father of many nations. His faith crossed centuries, and to this day we are spiritual heirs of what he dared to believe. In the same way, your journey does not end with you. Every prayer you pray, every decision to remain in Christ, every act of obedience becomes a spiritual inheritance that reaches people you may never know in this life. Imagine your life as a tree. Today, you may only see the trunk still growing, but in the future, this tree will provide shade for the weary, fruit for the hungry, and shelter for those seeking refuge. This is how the legacy of the chosen works. Your choices of today are transformed into shelter and food for others in the future, and do not think that this legacy is built only on great deeds. Often it is in the silence of faithfulness, in small renunciations, in seeds that no one sees, that the greatest impact is generated. The woman who prays for her children leaves an eternal mark. The man who decides to remain upright, even amid pressure, generates fruits that will reach his descendants. The young woman who chooses to be a light in the midst of darkness becomes a beacon for those who walk around her. The mission of the chosen is to be a response. To be a response to the pain of others, to the hunger for hope, to the emptiness of meaning. God chose you to be a voice that announces life, hands that embrace, feet that bring good news. What you carry is not just for yourself, it is for many. And here is the great truth. Every act of faith today will become an inheritance tomorrow. The faithfulness you show in secret will be proclaimed in public by God Himself. The legacy is not just today. In the silence of your heart, something has been activated. Everything you have heard until now is not just a sequence of words, but a spiritual decree being established over your life. Heaven is sealing a new time, and the voice of God echoes within you like a trumpet that announces victory. Listen carefully. No tear was wasted, no prayer was ignored, no step of faith was in vain. Today, the Lord places a table before you, as written in Psalm 23. You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You anoint my head with oil. My cup overflows. This table is a sign of honor, restoration, and abundance. It is the confirmation that you not only survived, but were called to live in fullness. And if the enemy tried to convince you that you were not capable, today heaven answers with Isaiah 54:17. No weapon forged against you will prevail. This is not just a distant promise, it is a living decree. You can get up tomorrow with the certainty that you are protected, guarded, and guided by the one who never fails. Receive this truth. You are not common. You are not just another person in the crowd. You are a son, a daughter, an heir of the kingdom. The seal of divine choice is upon you, and that means that wherever you place your feet, there will be purpose. Wherever you extend your hands, there will be transformation. Wherever you open your mouth, there will be a living testimony of God's faithfulness. But this message does not end here. It is the beginning of a new journey. Today, you need to make a decision, to remain just listening or to rise up and act. Because the new time has already been released, but it is your response that activates it in fullness. Therefore, right now, be part of this chain of faith. Subscribe to the channel, leave your like, comment on what God spoke to your heart, and share this message with someone you love. This simple act can be the seed that brings transformation to another person's life. Know this word does not end in the video. It will echo in the coming days, in the coming weeks, because the Spirit has already engraved it in your heart. Walk with the certainty that this is your time. Heaven has already released it. The promise has already been activated, and now it is up to you to walk in the direction of what God has prepared. Declare to yourself, "This is my time. I will walk in it."